Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get back to the JRC here in a moment, but first, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shots campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are going to be there in the description box. As always, we have Autistic Koya's massive archive, where we get the bulk of the material in regards to the JRC for this channel. Neuroclastic's article, you remember the one JRC has threatened to sue them for, where they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center's so-called behavior modification program. So, folks, as you know, Neuroclastic refused to remove the article from the website, so please read the article and share it. We also have Neuroclastic's GoFundMe link inside there, just in case the JRC ever does see through with their threat, because unlike the JRC, unfortunately, we advocacy folks, we don't have access to unlimited funding, okay? If you can help, please go ahead and do so. If you can't, please go ahead and share. I know they'll appreciate it either way that you go there, okay? Alright, trigger warnings. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please utilize your headphones. Also, folks, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they're watching this, parental supervision is advised. Now, other trigger warning. We are at the part inside of this current document where the JRC is engaging with victim blaming, character assassination, token arguments, whatever weird-ass version of logic that they're using here. Word salads. It goes on and on and on, folks. Okay? And because they do this weird thing where they seem to copy-paste for every single time, whether in court or outside of it, they get in trouble. Yeah, I get a little mouthy. So, apologies ahead for that. Alright? Can't help it. Where we left off yesterday. So if you remember, the JRC was trying to say that the FDA did not meet its burden of proof in order to declare that the GED device is, let's go back up here a little bit, shall we be there stupid again? God help us all. So, it was unreasonable risk for injury. Oh my God, sorry folks, my brain is not braining today, send help. Okay. It's obligated to sustain burden of proof and provide substantial evidence to sustain the burden in order for them to prove illness or injury. The JRC is trying to say that the FDA did not do that they cherry-picked their evidence, that they only chose evidence to suit their narrative. For the love of God, JRC, we are broke, most of us are fucking poor, and a good lot of us do regularly grocery shopping at Dollar Tree. I am so over this your narrative shit. What narrative, bro? What narrative? Pretty much all of us singular advocates? We may be just kind of barely comfortable at this point when we're lucky. I do not have the kind of money that is going to have me out there helping to craft narratives for larger public social media, okay? I'm just a big fish in a small pond, for fuck's sake. I am known for what I do by certain groups. Some groups international, some national, some state. Pretty much everyone else on planet Earth has no clue who the hell I am or who the hell all the rest of us are. Okay? If we were to combine like all yearly income, it still wouldn't be nowhere near JRC's war chest or anybody else that's trying to shop out an agenda. We don't got the time, the money, the resources, or Kool-Aid drinkers hangers on in order to craft a narrative, especially not government workers. Now, I realize a lot of people don't realize this. Oh, it's a good job. It was a good job. I was more broke working for the state than I have ever been in the entirety of my existence. And that includes the early 90s where everybody's money was shit. At least that's what I remember. Agenda. Yeah. Sure, Karen. Sure. Let's talk about government workers and why that is just absolutely stupid. I just work for the southwest region of my state. I get a caseload on any general month up in the thousands. That is beside the point of bringing those into my office who applied for but did not receive state services to assist them to get into alternative ways of treatment, such as guiding them to places like Nova, Burrell, and Centers for Independent Living. When I wasn't doing that, there was a 6-month block of time where I was expected to essentially live on the road with maybe seeing my apartment maybe 2 days a month if I was lucky, to go speak at multiple conferences, having to take time even off of work to finish presentations so that there wouldn't be any lull going from conference to conference to conference. Okay? Where am I supposed to be fitting in anywhere? Some kind of being a small cog of the wheel of some narrative here, because no. The FDA are also government employees. Their paperwork load makes mine look like the first day of spring vacation. Okay? These panel members aren't just working for the FDA, they also have their regular federal jobs that they have to see to. State and federal jobs are no joke, folks. Usually we're all overloaded to the gills. To act like we're going to have any kind of time on hand to go out and craft a narrative and then somehow get all these people to push the same crap. For the love of God, we are not the rest of you all. Who has time for that? I'm sorry. I know I kind of went off in left field there. I apologize for it, but Mother of Christ. For everybody that acts like we are the all-powerful advocates, we control all things, we create an agenda, we can totally, just pick on the JRC at will for, shits and grins? Nobody's explained this to me in a way that I can actually comprehend and understand logically. The FDA had no bias. They painstakingly went through all of the evidence, even the stuff that the JRC presented. The reason why the evidence that JRC presented was not accepted was A, it did not back up what they were saying at all. B, the papers that they brought supposedly in support of them from so-called objective sources were studies that were so horrendously outdated that had this actually been a real court case, they would have been laughed out of the room. Okay? You can't just sit there and scream, but it's cherry picking. It doesn't become cherry picking just because after looking at the evidence, it proves that you're full of shit, JRC. See, the JRC only thinks that you don't have a bias against them if you agree with them. Problem with that is that's not what objectivity actually is, JRC. Objectivity means that you follow all the evidence in front of you. Your problem is your study is not worth the paper that you originally wrote it on. It is a joke. It would never be accepted to be published in any semi-decent psychiatry or psychology today-like publications. Okay? Number two, the studies that are supposedly addictive are outdated. And not to mention, your device hadn't even been created or used before, considering the timeline we're talking about here. The fact that you even brought them along as an argument is insane. It makes no sense whatsoever. But sure, yeah, it's the FDA who's cherry-picking evidence. The problem is, JRC, you don't have anything that can even be lightly construed as evidence. You have a whole mountain full of gaslighting, word salad bullshit, and just trust me, brah. Alright? So done. So done. Let's get to the paragraph. The FDA did not apply this standard here. First, actual patient injuries from the ASD treatment are minimal to non-existent. Explain the ER documents, JRC. Should be easy, right? You're trying to convince us that actual patient injuries, such as those that are very deep, but was described in great detail by ER doctors, backed up by their documents, and backed up by the photos taken of the injuries inside the ER rooms. Okay? Are you really going to try and say that second and third degree burns are minimal and non-existent? I'm going to need you all to stop with the nonsense. I mean, I understand that a lot of the general public are fucking stupid. I mean, this is not past my notice somehow. You've got a lot of dumb people who would rather be led than to think for themselves. Fair enough. Fair enough. But your GED device, the most recent and highest application for it, 85 mph. JRC, that is just below the lethal limit. It doesn't matter if it's only a 2-minute sting from the device. If I stick my hand on a hot stove while the coils are red, and I immediately yank my hand back, that doesn't mean because my hand was on the coils only briefly that the damage was only minimal. That's not how injuries work. It doesn't matter how brief the application is. What matters is how powerful it is. 2 seconds or no 2 seconds, if you shock someone with a skin shock device at just below the lethal limit, it is not unheard of and is pretty logical to assume that second and third degree burns would happen from such a device. This has also been backed up from what we know in ER documents, your own video surveillance footage, your own former staff, whistleblowers who come to back up what they're saying in the ER documents. JRC, are you hearing me here? This isn't the AH trial. This isn't a bunch of people coming to tell their stories with distrust, me brah. Every single survivor's story has been backed up by ER medical documents. Every single survivor's story has been backed up by video surveillance footage. Every single survivor's story has been backed up by photos of the actual injuries. All these stories are not just made up. The FDA is not cherry-picking anything. You cannot have all that evidence, all those ER documents, all those ER photos, all of those video surveillance footages that we've had based on multiple cases that parents have filed against you for years, and you trying to get me no, but the risk is minimal to the overall benefits. Again, how? How? JRC, by your own admission, these little stories that you copy-paste every time somebody gets on to you shows that if you remove the device off of the person, the behaviors come back. Which means your device has not actually improved anything. But how can you say that? The grades and everything. Don't make me tap the sign. Don't make me tap the sign. Masking is not progress. Masking is playing a role while suppressing all the inconvenient emotions that could possibly get us in trouble, get us punished, and get us abused. It's a survival mechanism that a lot of us learn young. Okay? You cannot show us any longevity. You cannot show us that the behavioral changes remain after the device is removed and continue to remain long after said students are removed from the JRC. As a matter of fact, your own so-called testimonials here that prove your point prove the exact opposite. What did you say? They would move them over into different services, and because the device removed, the behaviors returned. What does that tell you, JRC? Where are the benefits there? If I am on that device and you remove it, and all the problems I had previously with a huge side of PTSD come back. That means your device does not work to affect overall behavior in a healthy way. It is as simple as shock you, for lack of a better way to put it. If I go mouthing off and somebody punches me in the face, it may stop me from mouthing off for a moment, but it's only going to take about 5 minutes before I get back to mouthing. After I punch said offender in the face myself. It's a temporary interruption of a behavior. That's all it is, and that's all it ever can be. That type of so-called therapy cannot at all help deal with the underlying triggers that are causing the behaviors in the first place. It can't. It's just corporal punishment. It cannot get to the root core of the problem. Therefore, when the kid leaves this school and no longer has the device on them, that's why all those behaviors come back. And now you've got a heavy side of PTSD and a shit ton of suppressed emotions. Now they get worse, with more new behaviors that were never there before. Not unlike our neurotypical child abuse survivor counterparts. Okay? I can't deal with you all. I really can't. Minimal my ass, JRC. Okay? Nobody's buying it. Literally, no one's buying it. There are people on your own side that don't even buy that shit. Okay? The FDA did not cherry pick shit. No facility outside of you is willing to conduct a clinical study to decide against or for your batshit insanity, because every single one of them cited ethical concerns and concerns in regards to human rights and civil rights in regards to those that would be participating in said study. That is why there is infinitely more data and more proof in regards to current standard of care than there is for the JRC's batshit insanity, because the rest of the world has moved on from physical aversives. Granted, we have Trump and his ilk trying to drag us all back to the institutions and forced labor, but at least for right now, you get what I'm saying, right? The logic isn't logicking here. Your device is set at just below the lethal limit. The FDA has presented proof in the guise of ER documents, ER photos, the doctors who wrote those ER documents coming forward to testify, clarify, and substantiate those ER docs and photos. So yeah, the risk in regards to horrific injuries received because of your device has gone way more than just proven. I mean, what the hell else do you want, JRC? Again, Jimmy Hoffa and an oil drum? Don't know what to do for you. But the evidence is solid. It doesn't stop being evidence just because it doesn't agree with you. Okay? Let me finish this, Jesus Christ. Moreover, the question is not one of possible risk, but one of probable risk. Logic dictates that if a minuscule number of actual injuries over the multiple decades that the device has been in use, that the probable risk of injury is necessarily also minuscule. And this is why we call you monsters, JRC. This is why we call you monsters. But possible and probable are not the same thing. ER documents beg to differ, but now what they're trying is, but after multiple decades, if all we have is just a handful of ER documents, and our video surveillance footage and all that, but there's so few, then obviously what? Obviously what? That you all do everything within your power to try and make sure, by whatever means necessary, that the evidence in regards to what you evil sons of bitches do behind closed doors are never let out into the public? Now, what are we talking about here? What about the fact that we know, because of witness testimony and your own video surveillance footage, that you absolutely do have someone there near the resident's singular phone when they call their parents, listening to every word that they say? The instances where the injuries have gotten bad enough where the kids do need to go to the ER should not be looked at here as though it's some kind of victory. Because there's a lot of us, survivors, I was one of them, who would lie to the face of anyone, authority, other kids, or otherwise, when they asked me what that injury was that they maybe saw on my legs or my arms, around my stomach. Okay? So we're going to blame the victims that don't step forward because of the absolute power that JRC wields over every single one of their students. We're going to use the fact that only a precious few have managed to get around them to actually do that. We're going to use that to say, see, only once in a while. Allow me to say that the logic isn't logicking again, JRC. You cannot shoot that level of electricity through a skin-shook device directly into the muscles of preteen to teen kids and sit there and tell me that the risk is minimal in regards to injury. The logic doesn't work. The evidence does not back it up. And the fact that you switched so quick from claiming that the FDA did not meet their burden of proof to actually trying to gaslight by turning around and saying, well, they distribute possible risk, but not probable. It's weak as Donald Trump, people. It's weak as Donald Trump. Okay? The FDA has provided documentation on injuries that have been sustained by former students who received treatment inside ERs due to the injuries received while at the JRC by the GED device. They are accompanied by ER photos. and the JRC's own video surveillance footage. This is not possible or even probable risk. It is the device has already proven to cause injuries. This is an area where we're not arguing hypotheticals here. Documentation of the highest order shows us, forget possible, forget probable. We're talking about injuries that have already happened. If anything is going to be proof in regards to risk of probable injury or illness, ER documents from previous students who got their injuries treated that they sustained because of the GED device is telling us the damage that the GED device has already done. And you can't gaslight that back with it's only a few people. But we know you rule that school with absolute power and do not allow those students even a singular second of privacy. So excuse me why I call bullshit. Now that, folks, we're going to go ahead and close out of this one real quick. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, if you could, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to utilize the comments. I appreciate your time this afternoon, and as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all here in a minute. Goodbye, everyone.